Hey there, welcome back to Two No Stories. Hope you're doing great today. Let's jump right into the story. Daniel Carter stood in front of the full-length mirror in his dressing room, adjusting the crisp white cuffs of his tuxedo. The navy suit fit perfectly, tailored to perfection for what was supposed to be the biggest day of his life. In just a few hours, he was supposed to be standing at the altar, watching the woman he loved walk down the aisle in a flowing white gown. The ceremony would be flawless, followed by a lavish reception at one of Denver's most luxurious ballrooms. Everything was perfect. Except it wasn't. Because Daniel now knew the truth. Just days ago he had been like every other groom, excited, a little nervous, but certain he was making the right choice. But that certainty had been shattered in an instant when he discovered what Amanda had done. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. Today wasn't just about exposing her, it was about taking back control. She thought she was still in charge, still the innocent, beloved fiancée about to marry the perfect man. But today, she was going to learn a lesson she would never forget. Daniel had met Amanda at a high-end real estate networking event. He had been 32, an ambitious architect known for designing luxury homes, and she had been 29. An up-and-coming real estate broker with a magnetic personality and an undeniable charm. She was the kind of woman who could sell anything to anyone, effortlessly navigating high-stakes negotiations while flashing that dazzling, confident smile. It was part of what had attracted him to her in the first place. Her energy, her drive, her ability to take charge in any situation. They had clicked instantly. Within months, they were inseparable. Amanda moved into his Denver townhouse and they became the power couple everyone admired. Her business flourished, and so did his. He designed homes for wealthy clients, and she sold them at record-breaking prices. Daniel had never questioned their relationship. Until now. Now, as he stood in his dressing room, staring at himself in the mirror, he felt like a fool. A year ago, Daniel had planned an extravagant proposal. He had taken Amanda to a private mountain lodge in Aspen, where a candlelit dinner awaited them on a terrace overlooking the snow-covered peaks. As the sun set, he got down on one knee, pulled out a 4-carat diamond ring, and asked her to marry him. She had gasped, tears welling in her eyes as she said yes. That moment had felt real. He had believed it. But now he wondered if it had ever meant anything to her. Looking back, the signs had been there all along. Amanda had always been social, almost too social. She had a tight-knit group of bridesmaids, all women she had known since college. They were inseparable, going on frequent girls' trips and long weekends away. Daniel had never questioned it. He trusted her. Then, about 2 months before the wedding, Amanda's behavior started to change. She became secretive with her phone, taking calls in the other room and turning the screen away when he walked by. She started staying out later than usual, claiming she was meeting clients or going to late-night networking events. One evening, Daniel had overheard her on the phone, laughing in a way that didn't sound like a business call. "You are so bad," she had giggled. "No, I could never. Not before the wedding." He had pushed the nagging suspicion aside, chalking it up to pre-wedding stress. But deep down, something had felt wrong. Then came the bachelorette party. Amanda had insisted on a private weekend getaway, claiming she and her bridesmaids needed one last big trip before the wedding. "Just a girls' night," she had told him with a playful smile. "Nothing crazy, I promise." Daniel had smiled back, completely unaware of the betrayal that was about to unfold. The first real red flag had come from Rachel, one of Amanda's bridesmaids. Rachel had always been the quiet one, the least flashy among Amanda's friends. She had been the only one who ever seemed a little hesitant about the wedding. The night before the bachelorette party, Daniel had casually asked her, "So, what are you guys planning for the weekend?" Rachel had frozen for a split second, her smile faltering before she forced it back. "Oh, you know," she had said, laughing nervously. "Just some wine, maybe a spa day. Nothing crazy." Her eyes had told a different story. And then Daniel had overheard Samantha whispering to Lisa later that night. Did you book the entertainment? Lisa had grinned. Of course, Amanda's going to have the best night of her life. That was when Daniel's gut told him something was wrong, but he had still tried to push it away. Until the night of the bachelorette party. Until he decided to track her. Daniel wasn't the kind of man to make accusations without proof, so when Amanda left for her quiet girls' trip, he did something he had never done before. He put a GPS tracker in Samantha's car. That night, instead of heading to a spa resort like Amanda had claimed, the tracker moved to a secluded lake house rental, miles outside of Denver. Daniel's stomach twisted. This wasn't a casual wine night, and he was about to find out exactly what was happening. He called his best friend, Jake, a private investigator, and within an hour they were on their way to the lake house. Nothing could have prepared Daniel for what he was about to see. Now, as he adjusted his tie in the mirror, Daniel took a deep breath. Amanda was in the next room, getting ready for a wedding that wasn't going to happen. The guests were arriving. The venue was set. The cake was waiting. And Amanda still believed she was going to walk down the aisle, say her vows, and start her perfect life. She had no idea what was coming. Daniel smirked, picking up the neatly prepared USB drive containing all the evidence, videos, photos, and messages. Tonight, at the wedding, he would expose everything. And when it was over, Amanda would never recover from what he was about to do. Daniel Carter had never been a paranoid man. He had built his success on logic, on facts, on trusting his instincts. He had designed multi-million-dollar homes, negotiated high-stakes deals, and built a reputation as one of Denver's most sought-after architects. But now, just days before his wedding, he found himself questioning everything. Because Amanda, the woman he had planned to spend the rest of his life with, was hiding something. And he was going to find out what it was. It had started with the small things. Amanda had always been social, constantly networking, constantly planning outings with her bridesmaids. That was normal. But lately she had become secretive. Her phone, which used to sit openly on the kitchen counter, was now always face down, notifications silenced. She had started coming home later than usual, blaming client meetings or last-minute showings. And then there was the shift in their intimacy. She used to be affectionate, playful. Now she barely touched him. Nathan would reach for her at night and she would pull away, making excuses. "I'm just tired, babe. Wedding planning is stressing me out. Let's just wait until the honeymoon." At first, he believed her. He told himself she was just overwhelmed, that pre-wedding stress was normal. But then, there was the night at the restaurant. A week before the wedding, Daniel and Amanda had gone out for a celebratory dinner with her bridesmaids. It was meant to be a fun night, a chance for them all to relax before the big day. Everything seemed fine at first. But then, as Daniel got up to go to the bar, he overheard something that made his blood run cold. Samantha, Amanda's maid of honor, was whispering to Lisa, her other bridesmaid. "Did you book the entertainment?" Lisa giggled. "Of course, Amanda's going to have the best night of her life." Daniel froze mid-step. Entertainment? Best night of her life? He forced himself to keep walking, acting as if he hadn't heard a thing. But inside, his mind was racing. Amanda had told him the bachelorette party was going to be a quiet girls' trip. Wine, a spa day, maybe a few games. But now he wasn't so sure. The day before she left, Amanda had been unusually affectionate. She kissed him longer than usual, told him she loved him, over and over, almost as if she was trying to convince herself. "You sure you don't want to do something together instead?" Daniel had asked, keeping his voice casual. Amanda had laughed, waving him off. "Oh, come on, it's tradition, just a fun weekend with the girls." Daniel nodded, pretending to believe her. But that night, after she left, he couldn't shake the feeling in his gut. Something was wrong, and he was going to find out exactly what it was. Daniel had never invaded Amanda's privacy before. He had never checked her phone, never questioned her whereabouts, but something inside him told him this was different. So, before she left, he made a decision. He placed a GPS tracker in Samantha's car. Not Amanda's, Samantha's. Because if this was a real girls' trip, they'd all be together. But if something else was going on, this would tell him everything he needed to know. That night, he watched the tracker from his laptop. At first, everything seemed normal. They drove toward the mountains just as Amanda had said they would. But then, the tracker stopped at a remote location. Not a spa resort, not a hotel. A secluded lake house rental, miles away from civilization. Daniel's heart pounded. This wasn't just a wine night, and now he had proof. Daniel needed confirmation. He picked up his phone and called Jake, his best friend, a private investigator. Jake answered immediately. "What's up, man?" Daniel exhaled slowly. "I need you to do something for me." There was a pause. Then Jake sighed. "Amanda?" Daniel clenched his jaw. "Yeah." Jake didn't ask questions. "I'm on it." Within an hour, Jake had set up hidden cameras around the lake house, and by the next morning, Daniel had everything he needed. Sitting in his office, Daniel watched the footage. Amanda and her bridesmaids drinking, laughing, completely oblivious. Then, 2 men arrived. Male strippers? Number these men were more than entertainment. They were participating. And Amanda. She wasn't just involved. She was leading the charge. Daniel felt his stomach turn. This wasn't just a stupid mistake. This was a full-blown betrayal, days before their wedding. And she thought he would never find out. She thought she had gotten away with it, but she had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, Amanda came home, smiling as if nothing had happened. She kissed him on the cheek. "I missed you," Daniel smiled back. "Did you have fun?" Amanda grinned. "Yeah, it was great, just wine and gossip." Daniel nodded. "Good to hear." She had no clue that he had seen everything. No idea that the wedding she was planning to walk into was about to become her worst nightmare. She thought she had won, but Daniel was about to flip the entire game, and when he was done, she would have nothing left. Daniel Carter sat in his office, staring at the black screen of his laptop. His fingers hovered over the trackpad, his heart pounding as he hesitated for just a second. But he already knew what he was going to see. He pressed play. The security footage from the lake house flickered to life. At first, everything looked normal. Amanda and her bridesmaids were sitting around the living room, drinking wine, laughing, flipping their hair the way women do when they feel untouchable. Daniel clenched his jaw. They had no idea that this would be the moment that destroyed everything. Then the door swung open. 2 men walked in. Tall, muscular, not just entertainers, and Amanda. She didn't just greet them. She led them inside, giggling, touching, whispering things into their ears. Daniel's stomach tightened. She wasn't drunk. She wasn't being coerced. She was fully aware of what she was doing. And as the night progressed, she made one decision after another, each one taking her further away from the life she had built with Daniel. By the time the video ended, Daniel sat in silence, his hands clenched into fists. She had destroyed everything, and she had no idea that he knew. Amanda walked into the house as if nothing had happened. She tossed her duffel bag onto the floor, stretching lazily as she walked toward him. "Morning, babe," she said, pressing a quick kiss to his cheek. "God, I'm so exhausted." Daniel's skin burned where her lips had touched him. "You had fun?" he asked, his voice calm. Amanda grinned, oblivious. "Yeah, just some wine and movies. Nothing crazy." Daniel almost laughed. Nothing crazy. He had video proof of her betrayal, and she had the audacity to stand in front of him, smiling, lying to his face. He exhaled slowly, forcing himself to stay in control, because now he had a plan. Amanda may have thought she was in the clear, but Daniel wasn't a fool. He wasn't going to just throw accusations at her without solid, irrefutable proof. So he called Jake, his best friend and private investigator. Jake picked up on the first ring. "Tell me." Daniel exhaled. "I need everything on Amanda and her so-called girls' trip." Jake didn't hesitate. "I'll have full reports in 24 hours. Daniel sat back, gripping his glass of whiskey. "Good, because when I hit her with this, I want her world to burn." Over the next 3 days, Daniel acted completely normal. He went to work. He sent out wedding invitations. He even smiled at Amanda, making her believe that everything was fine. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, he was preparing for the moment she would never recover from. Jake delivered a full dossier, screenshots of text messages, hotel receipts, and additional video footage that made Daniel's stomach churn. The texts? Amanda had been bragging to her bridesmaids about how easy it was to fool him. Daniel is so clueless, lol. "This is just a bachelorette thing. Doesn't count." "Can't believe we pulled it off. Ha 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 ha." Nathan had seen enough. She wasn't just a cheater. She was a liar, a manipulator, and she deserved everything that was coming. The night before the wedding, Amanda was glowing. She was sitting on the couch, flipping through a bridal magazine, sipping champagne. Daniel sat across from her, watching her. She still had no idea. "Tomorrow is going to be perfect," Amanda said, flashing him a dazzling smile. Daniel smiled back. "Yeah, it's going to be unforgettable." And he meant every word. The wedding venue was packed. Over 200 guests filled the beautifully decorated hall, waiting for the ceremony to begin. Amanda stood in the bridal suite, surrounded by her bridesmaids. "This is it, girls," she said, adjusting her veil. "I'm finally marrying the perfect man." Lisa giggled. "You pulled it off, babe. He still has no clue." Amanda smirked, turning to the mirror. "Of course not. I always get what I want." But then the music changed, and her stomach dropped. Instead of the traditional wedding march, the sound of a microphone clicking on filled the room. Then, Daniel's voice. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said smoothly, his tone eerily calm. "Before we begin, I'd like to share something special with all of you." Amanda froze. She rushed toward the door, but security blocked her path. The massive screens at the front of the venue lit up. And then, the video played. Every guest in the room watched in horror as Amanda appeared on screen, laughing, drinking, touching the men at the lake house. The footage continued. The texts appeared on screen. The entire room fell into silence. Amanda's face drained of color. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." She turned to Lisa. "Shut it off." Lisa stepped back, shaking her head. "We're screwed." Amanda spun toward the aisle where Daniel stood, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "You thought I wouldn't find out," he said, his voice low, dangerous. Amanda tried to step forward, her veil slipping from her head. "Daniel, please, this isn't what it looks like." Daniel laughed. Laughed. That's exactly what every cheater says. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and tossed it at her feet. Inside, a canceled wedding contract, a refunded honeymoon trip, and divorce papers. "You made your choice," Daniel said. "Now live with it." He turned, walking down the aisle, and with that he left Amanda standing at the altar, humiliated, broken, and exposed in front of everyone she had ever known. Her perfect wedding? Destroyed. Her perfect life? Gone. And Daniel? He never looked back. The grand ballroom of the St. Regis Hotel in downtown Denver was packed with over 200 guests, all dressed in their finest attire, waiting for the ceremony to begin. The floral arrangements were pristine, the chandeliers sparkled overhead, and the air buzzed with excitement. At the altar, Daniel Carter stood tall, his tuxedo perfectly tailored, his expression unreadable. To everyone in the room, he looked like a man about to marry the love of his life. But inside? Inside, he was waiting for the moment that would shatter Amanda's world. She thought she had won. She thought she had gotten away with it. But today? Today, she was about to learn just how wrong she was. Amanda stood in the bridal suite, staring at her reflection. Her wedding dress was stunning, a custom-made, lace-covered masterpiece that had cost Daniel over $10,000. She smirked. This was her day, her perfect wedding, her perfect life. She turned to Lisa and Samantha, who were fixing their makeup. "You know, I was worried for a second, but honestly, I pulled this off perfectly." Lisa snorted. "You sure did. Daniel has no clue." Amanda giggled. "That's why I love him. He's so predictable." Rachel, the one bridesmaid who had always seemed uneasy, shifted uncomfortably in the corner. "Are you sure about this, Amanda?" she asked hesitantly. "I mean, don't you feel guilty?" Amanda rolled her eyes. "Rachel, grow up. It's just a bachelorette party. It's not like I cheated on him for real." Lisa smirked. "Yeah, the video evidence would disagree." They all laughed. Rachel, however, didn't. She felt sick. She had seen the look on Daniel's face earlier that morning. He had been too calm. Something felt wrong. But before she could say anything, the music started playing in the ballroom. The wedding was about to begin. Amanda grinned at herself in the mirror one last time. "Let's go make me a wife," she said. As the guests rose from their seats, the massive double doors opened, revealing Amanda. She walked down the aisle, her fake innocence radiating from every step she took. She spotted Daniel standing at the altar, his eyes locked onto hers. Perfect. She was seconds away from getting everything she wanted. But then, the music cut out. A murmur spread through the crowd. Amanda frowned, confused as she turned to Daniel. "What's going on?" Daniel smirked. Then he pulled a microphone from his pocket. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice steady, controlled, and chillingly calm. "Before we continue with this wedding, I think it's only fair that we take a moment to celebrate Amanda's real last night as a single woman." The massive projector screen behind him flickered to life. Amanda's stomach dropped. Then, the video played. Gasps erupted across the room as footage from the lake house filled the screen. Amanda and her bridesmaids, drinking, laughing, entertaining two men who were very much not Daniel. The guests watched in shock as Amanda danced on top of one of the men, whispering things into his ear. Then the text messages appeared. "Daniel is so clueless, LOL. This is just a bachelorette thing, doesn't count. Can't believe we pulled it off. Ha 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 ha." The room fell into stunned silence. Amanda's face went pale. Her bouquet slipped from her fingers, hitting the floor. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." She turned to Lisa. "Shut it off." Lisa backed away, shaking her head. "We're screwed." Amanda spun to Daniel, panic overtaking her features. "This isn't what it looks like." Daniel laughed. "That's exactly what every cheater says." The crowd exploded with whispers. Family members were shaking their heads. Amanda's parents were frozen in horror. Rachel, the only one who had tried to warn Amanda, was in tears. The bridesmaids looked like they wanted to disappear. Daniel reached into his tuxedo and pulled out an envelope. He tossed it at Amanda's feet. "Inside," he said, his voice dripping with finality, "is everything you need to know. The canceled wedding contract, the refunded honeymoon, the signed divorce papers." Amanda staggered back. "But we're not married yet," she whispered. Daniel smirked. "Exactly." He took a step forward, lowering his voice just for her. "You made your choice, Amanda. Now you get to live with it." Amanda was hysterical. She turned to her guests, her family, desperate to salvage something. But no one looked at her the same. Her father, red-faced with embarrassment, simply said, "You're not my daughter anymore." Her mother covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Daniel turned his back to her. And then, he walked out. The guests slowly followed. By the time Amanda realized what was happening, the ballroom was nearly empty. Her dream wedding? Gone. Her perfect future? destroyed. And Daniel? He had walked out of her life forever. Later that night, Daniel sat on his apartment balcony, a glass of whiskey in hand. For the first time in months, he felt at peace. Amanda had tried to play him for a fool, but in the end, she had played herself. His phone buzzed. Amanda. He stared at the message. Daniel, please, let's talk. I made a mistake. He smirked then. He deleted it, without replying, without a second thought. Amanda was nothing more than a lesson, and he was done learning. The cool night air wrapped around Daniel Carter as he sat on the rooftop of his Denver apartment, a glass of whiskey in hand. The city lights stretched out before him, twinkling like a sea of stars, but for the first time in months, he wasn't thinking about Amanda. No anger, no heartbreak, no regrets. Just freedom. He swirled the amber liquid in his glass, taking a slow sip, letting the burn remind him that he had survived. Amanda had tried to play him, had mocked his love, had thrown away everything they built together for a weekend of cheap thrills. And, in the end, she had lost everything. Across town, Amanda sat in the dimly lit corner of a nearly empty bar, her hands shaking as she gripped her phone. She had spent the last 2 weeks trying to salvage her life, but everything had crumbled faster than she could control. Her parents, ashamed of her, her real estate career, gone, her bridesmaids, avoiding her. The video from the wedding had gone viral, spreading through their social circles like wildfire. Clients canceled their contracts, her brokerage firm had let her go, and she was now completely unemployed. She had tried to call Daniel dozens of times. Each call went straight to voicemail. Each text was left unread. Her eyes burned as she typed another message. Amanda. Daniel, please, I know I hurt you. I know I messed up. Just, can we talk? She stared at the screen, waiting. Seconds passed. Minutes. Then, finally, the 3 little dots appeared. Her heart leapt. He was typing. Maybe, just maybe, he would give her one more chance. Then, the dots disappeared. A few seconds later, a notification popped up. This user has blocked you. Amanda's hands shook. She had lost him. For good. Meanwhile, Brian Adams, the man Amanda had thrown everything away for, was dealing with his own personal disaster. After the wedding video surfaced, his wife, Michelle, had wasted no time in filing for divorce, and she hadn't just left. She had taken everything. The house, Heron the cars, Heron half of his company, Heron with her connections. She had spread the scandal far and wide. By the end of the week, Brian had lost his investors, his business partners, and any credibility he had left in the real estate market. Now, he was living in a cheap hotel, drowning in legal fees, trying to piece together what was left of his ruined life. And the worst part? Amanda, the woman he had risked it all for, was no longer answering his calls. She had moved on to trying to win Daniel back. And Brian? He had nothing left. Daniel wasn't just moving on, he was thriving. After walking away from Amanda, he had poured all his energy into his work, expanding his architecture firm into one of the most sought-after companies in Denver. His newfound freedom gave him clarity, allowing him to focus on himself, his business, and his future. One evening, while attending a real estate gala, he found himself standing face-to-face with Michelle Adams, Brian's ex-wife. "Well, if it isn't the man of the hour," Michelle said, swirling her champagne. "You know, you and I have a lot in common." Daniel smirked. "Oh, yeah?" She sipped her drink. "We both got rid of cheaters and came out on top." Daniel chuckled, raising his glass. "To fresh starts, then." They clinked glasses, and for the first time in a long time, Daniel realized he was truly happy. A month later, as Daniel was leaving his office, his assistant handed him an envelope. "This was dropped off for you earlier," she said. Daniel opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter from Amanda. "Daniel, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need to try. I messed up. I know that now. Losing you has been the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and if I could take it all back, I would. I was stupid, selfish. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. Please, if there's even a small part of you that still cares, let's talk. I miss you. I love you." Amanda Daniel folded the letter neatly, placing it back into the envelope. Then, without hesitation, he threw it into the trash. Amanda had made her choice, and now she had to live with it. Months later, Daniel sat on his balcony, watching the sun set over the Denver skyline. Beside him, Olivia Carter, a woman he had met through work, laughed as she recounted a story from her childhood. "You look different these days," she observed. Daniel smirked. "Different how?" She studied him for a moment before answering. "Lighter. Like you finally let something go." Daniel exhaled, feeling the last remnants of his past fade away. "I guess I have," he admitted. Amanda had been a storm that nearly drowned him. But now he was free. Daniel raised his glass, to new beginnings, to freedom, to never looking back. And as he took a slow sip, he knew this was just the start. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and comment below, and of course, subscribe for more.